now at 4.
Let me take you back to Valentine's Day, February the 14th, 2018.
Timeline of terror.
2/21/33. The massacre begins.
Prosecutors breaking down a confessed killer's sinister mission to massacre.
He had been planning to be a school shooter.
Now it's life or death after the pain in Parkland.
Cold, calculated, manipulative, and deadly.
Extensive Team 7 coverage of this historic trial starts now.
Hello and welcome everybody. A daunting day one in the Parkland shooter sentencing trial.
Families of the 17 victims searching for closure 4.5 years after the shooter walked up the school's staircase on his path of carnage. 7's Rafael Perez is live at the Broward County Courthouse along with 7's Nicole Ensalada, who begins our extensive team coverage.
Well, Lynn, earlier on this morning, the prosecutor, Michael Sachs, really took the jury through moment by moment what happened at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School that day, February 14th of 2018. But you know, he did it with words. He described what had happened. But then just a few minutes ago, actually, a student who was there, they took one of her cell phone videos she had recorded during the attack. They played it, and it had far more impact than really you can imagine. We should warn you. It is very difficult to listen to. A fire alarm and bangs heard on a student's cell phone. Parents flee the courtroom. In the courtroom, just the sounds. Students huddled, injured, desperate, waiting for rescue.
They're coming, we're okay.
The first witnesses describing what it was like February 14th, 2018 at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School.
We were just sitting, kind of like sitting ducks.
Earlier, prosecutor Michael Sachs prepped the jury with a painstaking account of the day, beginning with the accused shooter's own words 3 days prior.
Hello.
My name is Nick.
I'm going to be the next school shooter of 2018.
And then he took the jury hallway by hallway, doorway by doorway, victim by victim.
The time, 2/21/33. The massacre begins. The defendant fires at Martin DUQUE, Aquino, Gina Montaldo, and Luke Hoyer. And he shoots and kills Helena Ramsey. He shoots and kills Nicholas DWORET.
Nicholas Cruz fires into classrooms.
And shooting and killing Alex SCHACHTER, who was sitting in his desk.
But then there were the victims he came back to hit again, prosecutors say, like Chris HIXON, who'd hidden in an alcove after being injured, as well as Meadow Pollock and CARA LOUGHRAN.
Joaquin Oliver was wounded. He was shot in the leg. He couldn't run. The defendant fires into and kills Joaquin Oliver. Jamie Guttenberg was racing down the hall to get to the stairwell door, and she was shot. Peter Wang was shot 13 times.
The pain of the words alone evident on the faces of the families gathered in the gallery. The defense will argue the shooter's life should be saved because of mental illness and diminished mental capacity. The prosecution advocating for the death penalty, pointing to his cell phone video, his stated goal of at least 20 victims, and his escape into the crowd.
Cold, calculated, manipulative, and deadly.
And so just a few moments ago, the defense called for a mistrial because of that audio. In fact, excuse me, there was another student who was on the stand who had similar audio. We heard just the very loud bangs of the gunshots just for a few seconds before they called for a sidebar and before the defense asked for that mistrial. The judge has denied that, and now they have another witness on the stand discussing the cameras there at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. A very difficult situation for all involved, reliving this this afternoon. Reporting live in Fort Lauderdale, Nicole Ensalada, 7 News.
And Nicole, South Florida, seeing the heartbroken faces of the families who lost loved ones in the tragedy. Simmons Raphael Pierce live with more on their search for closure and what they are now facing in court. Raphael.
So this process, it's really just getting started. But as you can imagine, emotions already running high inside of that courtroom as families are forced to relive that horrific Valentine's Day 2018.
Families flooded with emotion, many visibly upset inside a Broward County courtroom Monday as prosecutors detail the dark and tragic events of the Parkland mass school shooting.
The defendant walks up to him and fires.
The sentencing trial for the now 23-year-old confessed killer is officially underway. It's been nearly 4.5 years since 17 students and teachers were shot and killed. Another 17 left injured at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. Therapy dogs brought in to try to help console the families during this difficult day, but as the sentencing trial continued, things only got more difficult for loved ones of the victims. The prosecution playing video taken inside one of the classrooms as the horror unfolded. As the families listen to the audio, they're seen embracing one another, but for some, it was just too much. You can see a few get up and leave the courtroom. These families fighting through the pain of reliving the most difficult time in their lives, but hoping as this process moves forward, they can eventually get some sense of closure.
But for me, the trial finally happening and knowing that down the line there will be a verdict rendered, okay, that part will definitely be closure.
So once again, whether Cruz gets sentenced to life in prison or he gets the death sentence, that'll be up to a jury to decide, a process that could last several months. For now, reporting live in Fort Lauderdale, I'm Raphael Pierce, 7 News.
Raphael, make sure to follow our TikTok page at WSVN-7 News throughout the trial. 7's Nicole Ensalada will provide live updates of all the pertinent courtroom developments as they happen there on TikTok.